Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Living Ageless and Bold. Imagine if you took all the lessons you got from your mother and put them into an advice book. And that's what Amy Goober and her mom, Gwen Borden, did in their book, My Mother Always Says, 25 Lessons for Finding the Silver Lining. Gwen wrote the book at 93, and she's still sharing her words of wisdom. And I'm so excited to have both of them here with us today. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
So Gwen, I want to start with you because a lot of this, my mother always says you had quite a, I don't want to say difficult because that goes against everything your book is about, but you had some struggles throughout your life. So talk a little bit about, how you lived this amazing life at 93 and some of the struggles you did have.
Well, now that I'm 94, I can look back with a historical view. When I look at my life, I think I was born in interesting times. And you know what the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times. So I had the good fortune to be born and then live through really historical events. The Great Depression, my sister's polio during the Great Polio Epidemic, World War II. So this was a privilege. 9/11, I was right there working. So it was a privilege to be present and participating in the most exciting historical times in this country.
How old were you during the Great Depression?
I was born in 31.
So you were 10. Oh, no,
I was born in July of 1931, which was the height of the Depression. And there was a massive polio epidemic in New York at the time. So my mother was in the hospital having me. My sister had developed polio, and my mother came home from the hospital to a child who was dangerously ill with polio. And so she handed me off because I was a healthy baby to some cousins who were 17 and 18 and said about taking care of a very ill child. And in those days, the Kenny treatment was not being done by doctors in New York. They were putting children like my sister, who was 4.5, in braces, which left them crippled. My mother, with her 8th grade education, somehow read about Sister Kenny, filled up the bathtub in the bathroom, and organized a water brigade of all the family members who came all day long, all night long, and moved my sister Halea's legs around in the water. And she came out of that polio epidemic walking, dancing, and was never troubled again with it. So I was put aside in the hands of very capable, loving family, but I was a resilient, happy, healthy child, and I thrived. And I had all these people taking care of me.
Wow. I can see why, Amy, why you wanted to write the book, like just the history of it.
Right.
So let's talk about your husband who passed away quite young.
Oh, my first husband. I've been married twice. My first husband, Amy's father, died at 49 in 1975 of a brain tumor, which, although it was not malignant, killed him in 10 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
That was a very traumatic time because this very healthy, vibrant, very successful businessman was struck down so rapidly, nobody knew what happened. And fortunately, he never knew what really happened to him. His frontal lobes were gone. So we had this traumatic event. And then as life went on, and if you read the book, I remarried in 1980. And believe it or not, that husband just died a month ago at 98.
Oh.
Exactly twice the age of my first husband. Is that not amazing?
Wow.
Is that not amazing?
How blessed you are.
One so young, one so old.
And 98 is a pretty good age at which to die.
Right. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So Amy, at this point now, your father has passed away. How old were you at that time?
15.
Wow. I'm sorry. I lost my dad at 24, and they're both are way too young to lose your dads. So you were being raised by this incredibly strong woman.
Right.
Tell us how this started. My mother always says, obviously not as a teenager, because we never listen at that age, but
No, at that age we have earplugs in. No. So I always would quote my mother. I mean, that was not something I never did. I was doing it throughout my life, but in the last 5 years, I would say, I found myself quoting her more and more and more, either in my personal life with my friends, or I do work with women. I would just in conversation be saying, well, as my mother would say this, or my mother always says this. And then I said to my mother, a couple years ago, what do you think? We should really get this down on paper. We should write a book. And I'm an action coach. So, yeah. I mean, I'm a doer.
You make things happen.
When I say I'm going to do something, 9 times out of 10, I already started doing it. So other people say they're going to write books and they don't, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I have to be careful, because when I start talking about something, I'm going to do it. So we started writing this book, and my mom has some macular problems with her eyes. So, I couldn't send her copies for her to look at. So I was listening to her and typing it all on my laptop. I was coming to see her and typing it all. And I think, the key is that what we really wanted to, or what was a focus for me, was to have lessons that people could put into their lives. A lot of times you read what people call an inspirational book or a self-help book, and honestly, they shut the book and they forgot all about it. But for this one, it was really important for me to have the lessons be very succinct, although some are and some aren't. And we wanted to give examples. So my mom gives an example, I give an example, and then we wove her story into it, which was her idea. So now it's really part memoir, like an incredible story of her life, and then part, inspiration or self-help. And so I think it's just, I speak to people all the time who've read the book that say, well, my favorite lesson was this, and this is why, and I think about it all the time. And I'm like, okay, that's the whole point. If you get 1 or 2 lessons out of it, which I've gotten all the lessons out of it,
yes,
that's the goal.
That's when I was just going to ask each of you to tell me your favorite lesson from the book.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. My favorite lesson from the book. To be honest, I have always been a person who didn't look at my life as producing lessons or as teaching any kind of parables. I was always a person who enjoyed doing things myself. Amy is very much like me. I think the best thing I ever did in my life was go to Europe by myself when I was 21. I had just broken off an engagement because I had bad vibes. And it was an opportunity with no more plans to get married, to do something fun. And I decided to go to Europe. I was teaching. I had money saved to get married, but now I had money saved to go to Europe. And my parents were so happy I wasn't marrying this young man. They said, go. I called a friend from graduate school, and she said, let's meet in Paris, because she had lived in France as a student for years. And we made a date and decided to go, and we met in Paris. And I spent 10 glorious weeks traveling all over France, Italy, Spain, Copenhagen, England. And it was absolutely the most viable educational experience of my entire life, was to do that trip on my own as a kid. I mean, 21. In those days, young women like me did not go off to Europe like a pair of tramps. And her name was Annie Lou. Annie Lou and I took the train. We took planes. We just went. We did everything. And it sort of germinated me. I came back from Europe. I was more grown up. I was more confident in myself. And I went back to teaching first grade, which is what I had been doing. And I loved teaching first grade so much, I couldn't believe they paid me. So I just enjoy things. I just have this gene that says you'll have a good time. And I do. I have the good time.
But I just keep thinking of that time frame. I mean, your job at that time was to get your MRS degree. That's what
all my friends did. I was the last of my friends to get married.
I think that's just incredible that you were just such a trailblazer And you're right. I mean, everyone watching and listening, you have to remember the time here. There were no phones. There were no cell phones. There was no, I mean, you went.
1949, I came out of high school, went to college at 17. Went at college in 3 years, and I was very young. I had gone to graduate school at 21. I was the youngest student. I couldn't even have a drink in Michigan. I was underage. And it just happened to be the seed dropping into the fertile soil at the right time. So all these events happened to help me become a very well-rounded person who just had an adventurous spirit. So when I came back to teach first grade, and I say everybody was married, and they all said to me, well, Dad, you'll never get married teaching school. How are you ever going to meet anybody? Sure enough, Prince Charming appeared, and I was married in 1956 to this wonderful man who gave me a wonderful life. So I had the wonderful wedding. I had everything that was wrapped up, ready for Christmas, Easter, and New Year's, all wrapped into one. And it all just seemed to come in the right sequence. So when the bad times came and he died, it was really all part of, now what are you going to do next? And I went to social work school because I had returned to teaching and no longer found it interesting. So because I went back to school, because I'd always enjoyed school, again, good fortune smiled on me. And I finished my MSW at Adelphi University, wrote a paper for a class I knew nothing about on a bereavement center, which I dreamed up out of my head. There was no such thing as a bereavement center then. This was in 1979. And my professor said, this is a really great idea. Why don't you leave it to your director at Family Service where I was interning? So I did, and he called me and said, we love the idea. We want to do it. So I got propelled into a job directing a center for people who had children die, spouses die, siblings die. I did all deaths, knowing absolutely nothing except the death of my own husband and the death of my own parents. And it was timing, was right. We got space on TV. And the next thing you know, we were launched and famous, and Newsweek came out and did a big story on us because there was no such thing as a bereavement center in the United States in 1979. So my first job was to direct this program.
And how did you do it? If you really didn't have the experience, but it sounds like you've just bounced back from anything that's happened to you. You've tried to find the good in every situation.
It was the good. All these people who flooded us taught me everything I ever needed to know about how death affects people.
Yeah.
The parents taught me about child death. The widows and widowers taught me about spouse death, aside from my own. The siblings taught me what it was like to have a sibling die. So they taught me, my workshop was my clients. So I learned on the job and had a wonderful education.
How long did you work at the center?
I worked there, and I worked there at 9/11. I worked there. I take it back. In 1980, I was going to get married, and I decided I was lucky. I was going to get married a second time, and I wanted to go into private practice so I could see people if I wanted to see them on New Year's Day, if that's the only time a family could get together. And I didn't want the confines of family service any longer. So I went into private practice where I stayed, had a flourishing practice. And then when 9/11 came, guess who was there on Long Island when over 3,000 people died in one day? And so, again, a very bad experience for everybody, was fertile field for me. And I was practically on retainer for the New York Fire Department. Because one client told another client. And again, I was one of the few people who had handled that number of people on Long Island at the time of 9/11. I was 70 years old at that time.
Oh.
And I continued working until I came up to Massachusetts when I was 86.
Amy, you must be so proud that this is your mother. Like, what a role model for you to have. That it sounds like you're never going to stop either. You're talking about your coaching, your go-getter, your everything that you do.
Wonderful about her too. This is a young woman who started her own business with no experience.
Right.
She learned a lot from her mother. Like, you don't have to have experience to start a business. So she opened a bakery with no experience and was a huge success. Her bakery is still flourishing here in Massachusetts.
I was thinking the same thing, how I like to decorate cakes, and I decided I was going to open up a cake bakery with no business and no bakery experience. So,
but those are the best stories. Those are the best entrepreneurial stories. I've interviewed so many people, and a lot of them are when they're really young too. Like, they were too young to know what they were doing. It was crazy. Like the founder of Kate Spade. She's like, we were 22 years old. Right. We didn't know. We knew that we needed a different kind of handbag. Nobody sold it. So, they found literally a paper sack and made a bag and kind of put it out there. And, next thing you know, you have this huge successful company. So sometimes not knowing the business part of it, I think, can almost help you.
Yeah, I was 26. It was the same kind of thing,
See, yeah. I love it. And the bakery's still in business today?
Yeah. So I started it at 26. I had it for 7 years, during which time I got married and had my first baby. And then I said, it was so hard. I was like, I'm done. And I sold it to 2 of my employees, and they are still there. So I had it 7 years, and they've had it 32 years.
Wow. The best bakery in Boston, called the Icing on the Cake.
Yeah, so it's a cake bakery, just cakes.
So the good thing is, you see, Amy was, she was 15 when her father died, but I will tell you, she was an old soul. When we went to consult with the doctor, I wanted him to tell my children about their father's terrible fate. Amy brought a handkerchief with her in case she was going to cry. It turns out the doctor was crying as he spoke to us, and Amy gave him the handkerchief. But she had the common sense to know to bring a handkerchief. I didn't bring one. She has something in her that just is like a gyroscope that's sent to her, but she always seems to know what to do. And she trusts herself, just as I trusted myself. My mother trusted herself when she put her daughter in the bathtub with relatives.
You all have quite a legacy of strong women in your family.
We do.
Amy, do you have a daughter by any chance?
I have 2 amazing daughters.
Yes.
I have a son also, but I have 2 very strong, very independent, very, could rule the world kind of daughters. So, yeah.
I don't think they'd have any other choice with you 2 and their great grandmother.
Right.
So, Amy, what is your favorite lesson from the book?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that when my mother was talking about the travel, that is one of the lessons. It's spread your wings and learn to fly. That is one of the lessons. So that does fit. I think that one of the things my mother says that I really like is you can't put your head on someone else's shoulders. So when you're having a conflict with someone, or you don't understand why someone's doing something, or you try to convince even one of your adult children to do things a certain way, or a friend, or whatever it is, the bottom line is you can't put your knowledge and your experience and what you know and what you think on someone else's shoulders. And so you can beat your head against the wall forever, and they're never going to make the decision you think they should make, because they've had a different set of circumstances and experience and different genetics and everything. So I think that is a really helpful lesson, because sometimes we make ourselves crazy, don't we, to try to convince somebody to do something or not do something. And the net of it is, we do what we think is right, and they're going to do what they think is right. And they might make a mistake, or you might be wrong. Who knows? So that is one of my favorites. There's a lot of great ones, but that's one of them.
The major theme of the book, I think, if we were going to put one theme, is that there are no bad experiences, just the ones you don't learn from.
Right.
So there's no bad thing that's happening. It's what you do with it that counts.
Right. And I saw somewhere when you talked about failure, like we never really fail.
Right.
I mentor a lot of students, and I speak with them, and I said, listen, you guys have to fail, but fail forward. Like, it's not really a failure. It's a learning experience. It didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out, but that's not a failure.
But, I think that it feels like a failure. So what I say to people is you're not going to find the silver lining while you're going through the tough thing. I mean, then that's almost futile. Go through it, feel the feels, walk the walk, get to the other side. And it's later on that you'll say, oh, when I went through that, I really learned this about myself, or I developed this trait, or, I don't think we can expect, like, when your father dies at 15 to be like, oh, this is really going to help me down the road. I mean, that would be ridiculous. So I don't want listeners to think that while they're going through something terrible, they should be looking for the silver lining. I mean, I think that's unrealistic. But what I tell the women I work with is to look back now at what they did, at what they struggled through, at what they survived, at what they accomplished, and figure out how that has molded them.
It's so interesting you say that, because I literally just wrote an article for Business Insider about this. I said, my dad died when I was 24, and I just got a final gift from him at 58, because through the podcast, interviewing incredible women like you, it got me thinking about my heritage a little bit. And I knew I was first generation American. My parents were German. They came here literally off the boat. I've always known that. I speak the language. It was my first language. But I started digging in a little bit more, and I found out that I was born in January 1967, and my dad was naturalized in July of 1967, which makes me a German citizen. So I went to the embassy with all my paperwork, and she was so excited. She said, oh, you are German. You really are. And I have a passport appointment now. And my kids are German citizens, and their kids will be German citizens. Yeah. So that's something I got from my dad all these years later that I had no idea. And I'm loving it. It's just such a gift later in life.
It is a gift to have a second country to be able to go to. That is really a gift.
It's really fun. I want to know how you two only did 25. Like, how did you fit? Because I have a feeling there were hundreds and hundreds of lessons.
Some were left out.
Oh, well, there was a lot.
For censorship purposes.
Yeah.
That is not true.
Definitely true for that.
Not true. No, there were many, many, many lessons. And we had to narrow it down. We wanted the ones that people could relate to, that didn't just connect with us, that we had good stories about, that she had a good illustration of, or I had a way to pull the audience in. So that's how we ended up with 25. And we didn't start out saying we need 25. We just, it's a process, right? It's an evolution of that. And I think 25 is the right number, because that's the number. That's the number we have.
That's the number we have. That's the number we have. But who knows? We may do a second book. No.
I was just thinking that. I think maybe you need a volume 2. I mean, Gwen, you're only 94. I mean,
94. I had to live to be 106. Who knows?
Wow. So what is on the horizon for you two? What a fun project to work on together.
I'm a grandmother.
Yeah. My daughter is pregnant, having a baby soon. So that's on the horizon.
That's very exciting.
That's on the horizon. I don't know. I mean, I run 2 different businesses. I run a women's event business. I create women's events in the Boston area, big all-day events. And my mother speaks, I speak, and we usually have 8 other women experts in different fields speaking. So I'm very busy with that, but she's part of that. And then I also run a women's travel group called Wandering Women, and we pick different destinations and we travel as midlife women. So that's what's next for me. I'm going to Quebec in 2 days with 19 women. So that's what's next for me is, are those pursuits. And I don't know.
Well, I know I now have the new task of, after 50 years with this George Borden, who I married, second time, of learning to live on my own again. So I have my own challenge in that I'm not 44 anymore. I am now 94. Has a big difference. In terms of what the expectations will be. But I really believe, since I am so programmed to enjoy myself, something good's always going to happen.
Oh,
I
just love your
always going to happen.
Optimism, your attitude. I have a girlfriend, the same thing happened. Her dad died when she might be your age, Amy, and her mother remarried, and the second husband just passed away in his 90s. And that's what she just said. She's like, well, it's not like I'm 46 anymore and I'm going to find another husband. Like, this is, but she had 2 very long marriages too.
Yeah.
Now, how many people are that lucky to have two good, long marriages?
I just met somebody whose grandfather was married to his grandmother for 30 years and she passed away, and he just had his 30th anniversary with his second wife. So 60 years of marriage with, that's amazing to really think about that. And especially in today's day and age.
It's miraculous. I don't think people were designed to live together that long.
Yeah.
So I really don't. I think it's just an amazing thing that you could live that long with somebody and emerge with yourself intact, so to speak.
Well, and the other thing too is, like I was saying, these events that I do and my mother speaks at, that this is all these women can talk about. I mean, I have all these incredible I'm one of them, but then there's like 8 other women, experts in all these fields, giving these amazing talks. And they all say, how come your mother didn't speak longer? Why did you take your mother off the stage? How come your mother is, it's like, so she is still imparting all of her nuggets, all of her wisdom, all of her things on the regular. My younger daughter's friend has been stopping over to see my mother since her second husband died. And she says, I wait all week to talk to you. The girl's like 24. And she's like, I wait all week because she's so smart and she's has such good advice, and she's so, right?
And so funny.
Wait,
she's 24 and she's lost 2 husbands?
No, her. I'm saying, so this is my daughter's friend has been supporting my mother. She lives nearby. So I'll come visit your mother, and which is so nice. It's my daughter's friend. I mean, she's not related to us. And she comes over and she said to my mother, I wait all week for this. She just loves listening to my mother, talking to my mother. So she still is the advice giver, the sharer of stories, all those things.
I wish more younger people would do that.
Yes.
I always say, when you look at a room that you're in, I like to find older people because I love to hear the history and the stories. I mean, the Great Depression, polio. Wow. And we have a really good friend. Her parents always came to visit, and her mom is not doing well. And I really miss her parents. I really do. They just became such a part of our fall and our tailgates. And I just loved hearing the stories of raising 4 kids and, grandparents and great grandparents. And you don't realize how special that is. So kudos to your daughter's friend for realizing what a gift your mother is to her.
But we're a gift to each other. There is such a generativity in and of itself. Speaks well for those older people in their 80s and 90s who get involved with themselves. And every day for them is like an organ recital. It hurts me here, it hurts me there. You've heard organ recitals. But if you invest in the future of young people, that is the gift that comes to you from being interested in the next generation and what they do. And it gets you from thinking about your own issues. And again, you go back to get another crack at the parenting, the teaching. Teaching is parenting. Teaching is parenting. I was a therapist for 40 years. And what is the main goal of therapists? To reparent people, to give them the better parent, the more understanding parent, to help them through the hard parts. So these young people are a gift to me. And I guess in some ways it's easier to talk to somebody else's mother or grandmother than your own.
Absolutely. There's no question about that. And I've been very blessed to be very close with my kids' friends. And sometimes they need that. You just can't go to your own mom or dad. And it's nice to have somebody you can trust that, will give you good advice. And I always felt good that I feel like my daughter had great women role models and friends that she could go to. She couldn't come to me because sometimes, and I'm very close with my daughter, but sometimes you can't.
Right.
So what's next for you two?
Well, we're not one person.
I know.
I'm going to become a great grandmother for the first time, which is it's a funny story. When Samantha was born, Amy called me up very upset. She said, we wanted you to be the guardian in case something happened to Bob and me. And our lawyer said, no, your mother's too old. She can't be the guardian. And I'm sitting here thinking, what did he know? Here I am. I'm going to be here when she has a baby. So I wasn't too old to be her guardian. Right. I might be too old to be this baby's guardian, but that's another story. But people's idea of what age is and what you're able to do is a fallacy. So I'm looking forward to this experience, which is new for me. And now I'll have a daughter who's a grandmother. Now, what do you make of that?
Right.
That's a new experience.
You have a whole nother generation to impart your wisdom on.
That's right.
It isn't even that wisdom idea. The idea is a sharing thing. It is so much fun. I had a physical therapist come in today to give me some physical therapy. And she left. She said, I had such a good time with you. And I said, it helps to have a sense of humor. While we were doing all these exercises, she was telling me about her 96-year-old grandmother who had just died, who was skiing till she was 90. And we were exchanging stories about, isn't it great to come from a great family? Look how lucky you are. Look how lucky I am. So every person you meet is another opportunity to find out what's the backstory here. What do we have in common? We live with so much hate in this country right now that it's just a pleasure to find out there's common meeting ground with almost anybody you meet if you're open to it.
And that is a big lesson right there.
That's a good lesson.
That's a good one. You have to write another book.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I gave birth to Amy. I don't know if she's going to give birth to another book. Yeah. She's going to work on that book.
And Amy, how about you? What's next for you? I'd love to hear about what you're doing with middle-aged women. That's this audience. So please share.
Yeah. So I run events in the Boston area with lots of speakers and sponsors, supporting women entrepreneurs and aimed at midlife women. So they get together for the day. And it's just a huge inspirational, great energy connection state, because as we get older, our circle shrinks. That's just what happens. So it's a great way for connections and for women who are sort of like, oh, what's next, to walk out of there being like, what's next? So that's the difference. So that's a big part of what I do. And I also run a women's travel company called Wandering Women, where we create trips for women and we go on, and I go on them. So I'm not a travel agent, I'm a coach.
Yeah.
So we're leaving in a few days for Quebec, and I created this whole itinerary. We have 19 women, we all stay together. We have our meals together. We're doing all these tours and things, and it's become a community. So for every trip I do, half of the women have been on a previous trip and half have never been on a trip with me. So, you create a community. We're having a reunion for them this fall because they all want to see each other after they go on these trips. So
of course. That's awesome.
Those are the two big sort of work endeavors, and the book. Now that the book is done, now it's just marketing the book and finding podcasts like yours and getting, publicity and going to bookstores and, doing all the things to promote it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. You'll have to look at it because I do some writing. Let's see if I can get this placed somewhere, because I think it's a great story. Great. I love it.
Maybe we should go to the library and start reading it out loud to little kids.
There you go.
Well, when they were young. Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can find the book.
Yep. So the book is called My Mother Always Says, 25 Lessons for Finding the Silver Lining. And it's anywhere books are sold, but mainly Amazon. So you can go on Amazon and purchase the book. It's like $19.95. It's very reasonable. It's a short read in the sense that you can pick it up, read half of it, put it down, and read the other half the next time. So and we would love more reviews. We have almost all 5-star reviews. So we'd love some more reviews.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Well, I'm going to get my copy of the book for sure. And everybody watching and listening, please share this episode, share the book. We could all use some of Gwen's wisdom. Obviously it worked well for you, Amy, and it sounds like for your daughters and son also.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you all for joining me today.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.